What is the Occupy movement? What is the significance of the Occupy movement? Where is the Occupy movement going? What's the Occupy movement up to? How is it going to change how has it already changed everything? Many of the questions asked and attempts to answer. I don't think that any of us will know the answers to any of these things until maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, retrospectively. But certainly this is a great attempt. A new book called This Changes Everything, Occupy Wall Street and the 99% Movement, published by BK Publishers. Sarah van Gelder, who is also the co-founder and executive editor of Yes Magazine, is the editor of the book. Sarah, welcome to the program.
Hi, Tom. Glad to be here.
Great to have you with us. What's, through the book and through the eyes of the various people who have contributed to this book, I'm curious what, I threw a bunch of questions out there. Pick one or two and give me your thoughts on it. What is this? Where is it going? What's up?
Well, let's start with what has already changed. I think one of the things that it's useful to think about is that even if nothing else was to happen, it's already changed the nature of our political dialogue. I don't think you can any longer run for office or talk about major policy proposals without there being in the background the question, does this help the 1% or does this help the 99%? So I think we've been trying to paper over that, or the political establishment has for a long time, and now that's no longer going to be possible. I think the amazing turnout for the Move Your Money Day is just one example of that. I mean, that went far beyond the sort of normal activist world. There was 650,000 new accounts created at credit unions just in the month of October, and billions of dollars transferred. So I think people are starting to realize, those big banks, those big Wall Street banks are not our friends. We need to be working with our local economy, our local credit unions, and that's the kind of thing that we're talking about in the book, This Changes Everything.
Right. And so everything, right now in Tahrir Square, they're shooting people again in Egypt. And the Egyptian state-owned media, which is owned by the military, which basically runs that country and will continue to run that country after the elections next week, is saying they're actually running footage of some of the more violent police tactics here in the United States against the Occupy movement and saying, we're not doing anything different than the Americans are doing. Talk to me for a minute about the police response to the Occupy movement.
Well, of course, in many places it's been quite mean-spirited, quite violent against demonstrators. There's been a few examples where police have, in fact, backed off. In Albany, New York, earlier on, some of the police establishment basically told the governor and the mayor of Albany that, these are peaceful protesters. We don't need to do this. Right. But they were since overruled and have, in fact, been arresting people. So it's been quite awful. The interesting thing is that the worse they are, the more support the movement gets. I mean, those images of those young people in Berkeley being pepper sprayed while they're sitting peacefully on the ground, or that elderly woman here in Seattle who was pepper sprayed for peacefully protesting, those things are not helping the efforts to shut this movement down. In fact, they're just feeding the outrage.
And what direction do you see this moving?
Well, it's certainly evolving very quickly. I mean, if you think about just 2 months ago, this whole thing started. It erupted all over the country, Occupy sites all over in both big cities and small towns. Now, of course, the weather's getting harsh and very difficult to spend all your time outside. And of course, having these encampments have their own issues that come up. So I think the movement is rapidly evolving, and I think what we're going to see is a lot of different creative kinds of responses. Some people are going to be going to help prevent evictions. They're going to be standing in front of homes like they were recently in Cleveland, Ohio, where they actually helped to keep a woman and her 2 children from being evicted for at least giving them another 30 days. I think they're going to be going into courtrooms where people are trying, where there's eviction processes in the works. I think they're going to be occupying empty buildings, as we've already seen in Oakland. And I think they're going to be doing something else, which is somewhat what happened in Spain. At least there's discussion about the ways in which you can take territory, and it doesn't have to be staying 24/7 there. You don't have to be camping out all the time. But you can still establish territories in which a creative process can happen. These general assemblies can happen. People can discuss among themselves what kind of world they want and start creating that world in their communities and in their neighborhoods.
You know, in 2001, 2002, I forget which year it was, I was down there as it was happening in Argentina. The IMF had made all these draconian demands of that country. Austerity, privatize your Social Security, blah, 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 or you won't get loans from us. And Argentina basically told them to take a flying leap. And they cut off the funds to Argentina, and there was a big crash. And a lot of businesses left the country. A lot of factories closed down. Business people were moving their money, and sometimes their bodies out of the country. And many of the middle-class workers in these factories occupied the factories and kept them running and continued making goods. And now, here a decade later, they have formed workers' cooperatives, and they own the factories. They were able to buy them at for a song from the original owners, or in some cases, the state simply sanctioned giving them to them. New forms of new laws, new incorporation laws were created and put on the books. In the United States, there's only, I think, 23 states that allow for worker-owned cooperatives. It's legal everywhere in Argentina now, and it's spreading all across South America. The largest, of course, is Mondragon out of Spain. It's worldwide, $16 billion a year, I believe, enterprise. Well over 10,000 employees. Do you envision this moving in that direction, that the Occupy movement could end up being part of the woof and weave of the economic fabric of this country, or do you see it more as the kind of the old SDS or the civil rights movement, where it does its thing and it establishes some new benchmarks, accomplishes some things, and then gets out of the way, and people step into the space created?
Well, I think there's really no telling what will happen. It's so huge, but I think all of the above are likely to happen because it's so diffuse and so diverse, and there's so many different manifestations of it. So I do think just in my own community, there are people who are now very excited about a local currency, local barter system, because so many people are out of work. Mm-hmm. That gives people an opportunity to still offer what they have to offer, their time and their skills, and to get things that they need in return. So I know that that's happening. I think the fact that so many people were moving their money is the first stage of building some of those new economic alternatives. Now there's so many more people who are members of their credit union. Some of them may run for the board or ask their board of this institution that they own, how about if you invest in these kinds of local enterprises? How about if you support green enterprises? How about if you do things that help create jobs in our own community? So we're starting to see the beginnings of that sort of stepping up and saying, we want to have some kind of say in what happens in our economy. We're really tired of this Wall Street system where all of our money from, banking at our local bank just goes right up to Wall Street, where it gets used in the global casino. What if we used our money instead to build the real economy that provides real goods and services? And I think worker cooperatives is certainly part of that picture potentially as well.
If you look at American history, in 1934, the Great Flint sit-down strike was the, Occupy the Factories, and that led to the Wagner Act of 1935 and the National Labor Relations Act, and 40, 50 years of strong unionization. It seems, my guess is that the next wave of Occupy the Factories is going to be worker-owned cooperatives. I mean, we'll see where this goes, but maybe it'll be the return of the unionization. Certainly the unions are on board with the Occupy movement, it seems, to a large extent. Mary Kay, forgetting her last name, but Mary Kay Henry, the president of SEIU, was arrested last weekend as part of the Occupy movement out in New York. So anyhow, Sarah, go ahead.
I think that's right, and it's been very, very helpful part of the movement. They haven't been trying to take over the movement; they've been cooperating with it.
There you go. Sarah van Gelder. The book is This Changes Everything, Occupy Wall Street.